I'm Elizabeth Vincentelli, and I write for the New York Times.
And I'm Peter Marks, theater critic of the Washington Post. Welcome to another episode of Marks and Vincentelli. Today, we are incredibly excited to have two great guests who are working together off-Broadway, Parker Posey and Scott Elliott. We don't have to tell you about Parker Posey's film work, which is voluminous and sterling. But what's of particular interest to us right now is that she's starring in Scott Elliott's staging of the Seagull, Woodstock, NY by the new group at the Signature Pershing Theater Center. It's Thomas Bradshaw's adaptation of the Seagull by Chekhov, transposed to the Catskills now. It's running until April 9th on West 42nd Street.
So, of course, as you just said, like Parker Posey does not need any introduction at this point. And Scott Elliott has helmed many, many shows for the new group where he is the artistic director. And as a director and an artistic director, he has a kind of taste for the unconventional, the daring, the edgy, and he's produced plays by writers like Wallace Shawn and Sam Shepard, Philip Ridley, Mike Lee, and Thomas Bradshaw. And I've got to say, personally, that Seagull is one of my favorite new group productions ever. I think it's one of their best, or at least the best that I've seen in a long time from them. It's a smart, affectionate take on Chekhov. It's a satire of our modern celebrity culture. And it's really is great material for the ensemble cast. So Parker Posey plays Irene, who, of course, in the Seagull is Irina Arkadina. She's a famous actress. And surrounding her are her son, Kevin, formerly known as Constantine, who's played by Nat Wolff, and Irene's lover, William, who you may remember as Trigorin, played by Atto Essendo, and the ingenue Nina is now played by Elise Shannon. And, of course, Masha is now Sasha, and she's played by Harry Neff.
And you had a great conversation published between Parker and Hari in the Times.
Yes, they have a great I love Harry. Harry is one of my favorite actresses working right now, I've got to say. I've seen all her off-Broadway shows, and I love what she's doing.
Good in this.
She's
really
very,
good
very
in this.
good in it. Especially because Masha could be such a kind of downer, drip goth girl.
Right.
And Harry brings like great spikiness to it.
Yes.
She's really lovely.
Yeah. And it's funny, Parker, she's a natural stage actress. We've only
really
seen her. She went to Purchase upstate, SUNY Purchase. But it's only one of the few times she's been on the stage in the last couple of decades. Most memorably, I remember her in Hurlyburly with the new group with Josh Hamilton and Ethan Hawke. It was a really pretty stellar production back in 2005. So we've waited a while to have her back. It's great to have her back. And it's even better that for me and for Elizabeth that she and Scott are on our podcast today.
It's great to be here.
Let's start at the beginning, a very good place to start. How did you two meet? Where did this all begin? Scott?
Oh, well, it was a long time ago that we met because Parker was in Hurlyburly. And I think I knew Parker a little bit before Hurlyburly, right? Just like around maybe a little bit.
So one of my dearest, oldest friends, Tanya Gallo.
Oh, yeah, Tanya.
I went to NCSA, North Carolina School of the Arts. We were both in the acting program there for summer school. And Peter Hedges was there at the time, who seems to be like a ubiquitous connector of all actors in theater community.
It is.
And so in my, anyway, but Tanya knew Scott all the way back in our 20s, and I think gave Scott his first job at Kennedy Marshall. So when I met Scott, it wasn't until, I don't know if you saw, I did a play at the Signature, the 5th of July. I just remember being in Hurlyburly, but I don't remember connecting with Scott but he was in my circle in my 20s already from Tanya. So I don't remember how we actually met because it just felt so, kindred when we did.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, was there a different quality to the off-Broadway scene, a couple of decades ago? Was it chummier? Was there more intimacy among actors and would the mingling happen more regularly for the both of you?
Yeah, because we would do readings of plays and kind of bump into other actors, when we were in our 20s in the theater district. And I think even different productions would have auditions in theaters, or workshops, and spaces weren't as expensive, so you could really chum it up. And there was like Cucaracha and Naked Angels and a lot of if you weren't doing an independent film in the 90s, you could slide in to do like the soap operas at Naked Angels or wherever. I forget where those plays were.
Adobe did them too.
Adobe. And then there was Worcester Group. And so there really was a group of where you could make a living doing off-Broadway plays. And still afford your rent. And now, now you can't. So
right.
Obviously, to say the least.
Yeah, really.
It was definitely, it was more of a community, and you could actually run into people, which was really lovely. But this is a time we're in a transitional time in the culture in New York, and we're coming out of this pandemic, and it's been great to be back in the theater and to, look at the cracks in the behind, off the stage and look at the people coming to life and laughing, or, sometimes just seeing, I can just see that it's been a tough time. So it's been such a great experience just being back on the stage and back in theater at this time. So we're lucky. We're very lucky. Now at the tail end, I don't know if you heard, David Cale has got sick. So we are, Scott went on last night. Scott Elliott's entrance into off-Broadway theater, which was incredible. I was so overjoyed. I couldn't stop laughing the night before. I'd wake up and I would just start laughing and giggling. We were all texting each other and like, oh my God, Scott's going to go on. And
was he understudying? What is this?
He was understudying David Cale.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't really understudying him.
You were understudying all of us. Scott could play all of us. He could put on a wig and play Irene. I was so excited to another one of us to get COVID so Scott could stand in. It was really fun. It was a cast of 10 people, and Scott would run up and just act out all these parts because it's about theater people. So, rural Woodstock, but everyone is kind of show busy theater folk. So anyway.
So Scott, actually, can you tell us who David Cale plays in the show? And so what happened with you going in?
Yeah, he plays Samuel, the Soren character in the original Seagull. In the Chekhov, he's the brother of Irene, but in our version, he's the best friend of Irene, the college best friend of Irene, and they own the house together in this version. And he's a guy who wanted to be an actor. And, went to Yale with Irene and, ended up being a lawyer because he just couldn't cut it and he didn't make it.
Wait.
And so he has
but you're leaving out.
What?
You're leaving out the most dramatic aspect. You're dying.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, he's one of those people that's always dying. You know what I mean? He dies for the whole play. Yeah, he's sick for the whole thing. But then 4 years later, he's still alive in the last act, but he's dying worse in the last act. But, they even say that he's like, he's been in hospice for 6 months. So who knows when he's going to die. But I think we all know people like that cling on. He's a joyful guy. And he seems to make the best of everything. And he's, I think that he's that person who loved New York, but then found himself no longer there. In sort of like when he left his law firm, he moved into the house in Woodstock and sort of stayed there. We all know those stories. And he's like Parker describes him as like sort of, or I have, he's the person that, that sort of, he sees everything and observes everything, and he's the glue for all of these people coming together.
So it was really fun to have Scott come on as David Cale, as Samuel, and our director to sit with his back to the stage a lot, right? And just observe all of us. And also Carrie, which last night, Scott, you could talk about this, like, as actors, we know how delicate and touchy and vulnerable if you're playing someone who's dying. Like, I was like, how are you doing, David? And of course, he's affected by this, and it's but in the land of Chekhov, we're, looking in the face of death and kind of laughing, and, we will get through and we will all die. And there's like great humor and pathos in that. But Scott said last night, was like, I was sitting in that chair, and I don't remember what you said after that, Scott, but you, I think you felt quite moved and vulnerable to kind of play that part, right?
Yeah, it was fascinating to actually go through the journey that we created, or that I've been thinking about for a really long time in a real way. I thought, as Parker said, I feel at one with all of the characters in the play. That's how I work. And I, there's always a little bit of myself in every character I work on, or I help actors, get to, just because that's all I have is my own self. But it was really fascinating, playing this part, which of course a lot of what Samuel does and David does so beautifully is observe and there for everybody. Like, he's sort of there. I mean, he obviously has opinions, and he has to keep everybody happy because it's his house, I realize, because everybody has such mixed feelings about everything. So,
but I want to know, Parker, isn't it a little bit like, isn't it a little delicious to have it like, to have the guy who's been sitting in his chair with his legs crossed going, no, or here's a note for you, to be the one who's suddenly feet in the fire, who's got to produce the way you do every night. Is that not kind of like great and wonderful to have happen?
Of course you're going for the tabloid, Peter.
Yes, of course.
For me, it was like, in theater, you're always working on the material, and it's never ending, and it's never perfect. So you're always in the soil, just kind of finding the nutrients and tilling it, and there's always something to capture. So for me, I was excited to have Scott in my, in the playground, playing in the sand with all of us, to kind of see through his own eyes what, the intricacies of these people and the choices that you can make, I think Chekhov is so much about positive choices and realness and truth and the humor that comes out of that. And, we found some of those moments on stage last night, which was really fun to have Scott included in that. So yeah, it was delicious in that way, but not in this like, yeah.
That's what Peter was looking for. He wanted you to say that. He wanted you to go like, yeah.
But I don't feel.
Yeah. Let him try to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
No, actually, it was so much more joyful than that, I have to say. I mean, of course, David Cale is one of my oldest, dearest friends. And so I felt really bad that he was suffering. And of course, it's never fun to think that like a show is going on and you're sick in bed. But
I'm sure he appreciates the break on some level.
No, he was texting me. He wishes he was coming back. No, he wishes he was there.
Of course.
But it, it's funny. Like every once in a while you have an experience that gives you a reason to continue, because it is so hard producing theater in New York, especially right now, right? It's like a nightmare. I mean, I think you know that. You're in it just like everybody else, and you guys know what's going on out there and how challenging it is just everywhere. But when having an experience like that, which brought me back to I don't know when, it made me. It gave me, I don't know, it energized me again. Not that I'm not energized, I'm a pretty energetic person, but it gave me like a feeling of like, oh, this is why. This is why we do it. This is why I always wanted to do it. This is why everybody on this stage wanted to do it. And so it gave me a perspective of like incredible joy. Like I came home last night and I couldn't go to sleep. Like I was sort of like, my mind was, and you know, of course I was criticizing myself. I can't help doing that. But the joy, I mean, Thomas Bradshaw flew in yesterday to watch it. You know, like he got on a plane from Chicago when he heard it was happening, and he got here by curtain and he watched it. And it was just so wonderful to have all of us there. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is the theater. It's like, it truly felt like that.
Well, you got to
and it sounds corny, but it's true.
You crossed the boundary. You went inside the play.
Which is, as
a director, is just fascinating.
It was. I was telling them before you got on, Parker, that like maybe I don't want to tell you because I don't want you to be self-conscious. Oh, I'll tell you. But anyway, I was watching. You won't be. You can let it go. I was watching.
I promise you, my denial and forgetting and all that.
You'll forget it all.
Yeah, my skills are really great.
But one of the wonderful things that I experienced on the stage was watching the connections between the characters and how deeply in it everybody is. You know, like that they're because you can feel it from the audience. I feel it when I watch it from the audience, but actually being in it. It actually makes you moved and it makes you laugh in a very authentic and organic way that I was having all sorts of feelings watching you watch the play within a play, which most of the audience doesn't see. Right?
Right.
Mostly only your performance in the play within a play is for your acting partners. And the level of depth and commitment that you brought to that was inspiring. Like I was honored. I mean, I think I texted you. I was like, okay, well, I've been on a stage in 25 years, but like, I felt honored to act with you, to have that opportunity to sort of be in that level of commitment and depth and, and just sort of like, it sounds corny, but that method acting, that sort of like really where people are so committed to their characters and the moments that it transcends everything else. And it was a beautiful thing, that part of it. And I'm looking forward to more of that exploration because, I'm going to be on for a few shows, it seems, because, David's going to be out for a few days, I think. So maybe I'll get better. I thought I was bad, but then everybody told me I was okay, I was good. So, and I'm at the office, and a bunch of people here were watching it. But in my mind, I was terrible. But I maybe I wasn't. Like maybe I did it.
You weren't. And Amy and
I'm not fishing.
We were like, oh my God, just Scott looks great out there. And like David's clothes are a little big, so it makes him look sicker. And like all these things. Like,
I know. I was like the old days. I was going through all the old clothes at home and saying, "Oh, can I wear this?" Because I couldn't fit into his pants, so I was just bringing stuff from home, shoes. Yeah. It was like in the old New Group days when we were all bringing our own stuff.
And we used to do that, right? We used to run to people's homes and borrow costumes.
Yeah, so you didn't have to spend money. So you didn't have to spend money.
But actually, I seem to remember that. Parker, when we met like a few weeks ago for that article, you were wearing those pink colored glasses. And I asked you about them and I said, were they yours or were they the characters? And you said they were yours, but you were thinking about using them for the character. And of course, when I saw the show, you were wearing them in the show.
Yeah.
Why did you think that those glasses, so, for listeners, they're like pink colored lenses.
My rose colored spectacles. Yeah. It's like, I feel like the more I thought about it, that this kind of, when you asked me if they were mine or Irene's, it kind of happened simultaneously that my other glasses were scratched. And I decided from some different things that I'd gone through that, oh wow, what if I had rose tinted glasses? And I would wear those. How would it look when I looked at, it's like a magical thinking, be careful how you see things and know how other people see you. And there's something kind of, I love props. I'm a real actor geek that way. I like props and having all sorts of business. and also language of props. And so it just seemed to work for Irene, who is, very much a narcissist and very much aware also of being a star and the projections placed on her and the projections that she, is in charge of. That's one of the things that as I've done this play, and I can still do it more and still discover more things that Thomas Bradshaw did so beautifully, is the unraveling of that facade and an acknowledgement of those projections that she does have to carry and the subjectivity of that. And, on stage with a bunch of people who you wonder if how much they really do love Irene and, or whether or not they just resent the hell out of her because she can get away from the country and take a trip with William and live her own free, flying life. So the glasses seemed really perfect kind of prop language for that. Did you like them, Elizabeth?
Did y'all
like them? Or?
Yes, I thought they were great, actually. I mean, they were very striking, but in a kind of subdued way. They are making a statement, but without screaming a statement.
Right.
They're very much part of the character. They're not overwhelming the character, and it felt very a judicious choice.
I dated someone whose mother wore these tinted glasses, and I was in my 20s and she was in her 40s, and she was very much a star. She wasn't an actress, but she was very much a star in her life. And oh, Zachy, please get mother her, her pills, and I have to go to Brazil to see the show with, and she's just a real grand lady. And there are people who are that grand, and she had these tinted glasses. You just reminded me about her.
One of the great things about this production, I think, one of the reasons it works so well in the 21st century is that, it made me think about the conspiracy between someone who wants to be treated like a star and the people around her who the sort of sycophantic, but they reinforce the belief in her own, whatever way she's inflating her own ego, they play along, except when she walks away and then someone says, well, how famous is she? And then someone says, Amy Stiller's character says, well, she's theater famous. And that's such a deflating kind of, remark that and it so perfectly distills the kind of, not backbiting, but the reality check that we feel when we're and somehow when you were talking about the rose-colored glasses, I was thinking that those are a wonderful kind of marker of the way that Irene wants to see the world.
Yeah. And one of the things that you're making me think about, because we've been doing the play for a while now and hearing it, is how much, celebrity talk. Like when Amy says that line, the roar of laughter, I can run back and I go into the green room and I see it, and the audience is laughing so hard because they're acknowledging the truth in themselves of having been those people and how they talk that talk. And Thomas, there's so many name drops in this. Did you say Alec Baldwin was coming? And everyone was just oh my God, they said Alec Baldwin on the stage. It's like they're getting in the room where it happens and they're Starbucks. He was just at Starbucks. And it's every time there's this kind of name drop, which was so brilliant for Thomas to kind of include everyone, which is so much about what this time is. And when I think of what new forms are there to create in this time right now with these iPhones and these devices and immersive theater and writing. And I think a lot about the blur, because we have people talking back and, when we're on stage and there's this line where I say to William, do you want stability in your life or do you want to live like a 19-year-old rock star? And thank God I didn't hear this, but Otto did. he heard some guy say, like a 19-year-old rock star. And I was like, so there's something so inclusive and modern about what Thomas has done, because, hey, it really is a 15 minutes of fame. And you know what? The people in Woodstock, they're all stars too. They're not as sycophanty as they could be. You know, they're really, you know, they're just as with their iPhones out and their pictures they're taking and posting. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's there's that layer of that I think is really, really brilliant.
There's also this really, I think part of the humor also is that you're addressing a crowd that when in the show there's an allusion to Irene doing a Tracy Letts play. I think everybody in the audience will know exactly which play and which part she would be doing.
Exactly.
That was the idea, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. You don't even need to name it. You're like, oh, yeah, no, of course she is.
yeah.
And then there's the dig that is the replacement cast, isn't it? There's a joke about her being the replacement and like making her mark.
She says she's a replacement and that can replacements be definitive.
Right.
Oh,
So
right.
she talks about
Yeah.
she talks about how Tracy told her she was definitive in the role.
Right.
No, someone close, a certain person close to the production. So I think there's within that little exchange, the audience, the theater audience goes through a lot of like, wait a minute. She was in a play with Tracy Letts, but they're talking about Osage County. They just mentioned like talking around a dinner table and everyone was a reveal for the past. And they're just like, oh, I love theater, you know? And I remember when Scott and I had our Zoom about this, he said, you know, the play really is very much about theater. And we hope you do it. And I was like, how could I pass on that?
How important is it to be laughing during rehearsals? How much is the laughter a bonding among cast members and director, especially in a funny play? I mean, do you have to all share the joke when there is a joke? Is there a lot of parsing of the humor? You know, does that kill it if you go too deep into figuring out what's funny about the lines?
Humor has really changed in the last 20 years. I feel like it's gotten more pointed and more self-aware. And I hear audiences really love that too. Like, I thought it was Alec Baldwin, you know, and it's like, but it's kind of broad. And, so you can do humor in so many different ways. And that's what's so much fun about it. Is we were all laughing when we started rehearsing. I like the humor coming out of the character first. That's just kind of my school. But I think there's also something that the audience really enjoys about being in on the joke, which is a different thing, you know, than being funny. It's just a different thing. There's tonally, I've noticed it in other plays that I've seen too. And that's why humor is so interesting.
And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to make the audience a part of the show or feel like they're a part of the show, you know, because it relaxes them into it. Because it's funny because not every person in the audience, I would say most people in the audience are not theater people. Right? They're theater goers, or they're coming to see the play because Parker Posey's in it, or they're coming to see the rapper because of blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's like, the audiences are not all us, right? But the play, the theater, if you look at the theater in a way, it's like a metaphor for life, right? Like, it's like, the theater community is there's so much going on and so much emotion and so much, people bring so much to it that it feels like, people get it and they laugh along. And I sometimes wonder, like, are they laughing at the fact of what she's saying, or because they have a different sort of understanding about it? Like, not everybody knows who Tracy Letts is, right? That's the thing. But it seems like the audience is so with that moment, and like, what are they really laughing at, right? Only some people know. Half the audience knows who Tracy Letts is, right? Not everybody. And I think that, like, I keep saying Tracy Letts, but I love Tracy Letts. I don't,
it's
Well, there was True West too. Sam Shepard.
Sam. You know, there's all that. People. There's all sorts of humor and sort of things, but I think that it's because the community that that the actors have created has made it seem like the world or
chummy chum. Yeah, it's very chummy.
And the humor is such a big part of it. And, I believe that every rehearsal room should have laughter, like whether it's a drama or a comedy, because I think that, that's part of the way that relationships build, right? Is finding out how everybody can exist and, what's everybody's sense of humor? How do we all get on the same page? And I think that's part of the process, I think, discovering the humor in the room.
But I think one of the reasons the play really works is that the play, I feel like not a lot, but in some theater right now, like I feel like the playwright does not really love the characters. And whereas in this one, I feel that the play does not make fun of Irene. Well, it does a little bit, but it's actually affectionate. I don't think she's an object of ridicule. She's not mocked. She's who she is. And actually, it makes you want to see her in one of those plays that she's talking about. I would love to see her in August Osage County or
Naked
any of those plays she mentioned.
Yeah, I would
too. All of those. And
you're going to give Bradshaw ideas.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Right. Exactly. Thomas will write his next play for you. Yeah. I agree. I think you're spot on. I think that's really that's an interesting observation.
When we started though, Elizabeth, I was taken aback because I'm sensitive to it because I'm playing the part of the theater actress, and I'm in dialogue with that part of myself as an actress. And I will share with you, there were a lot of negative projections toward her and toward a woman who is, an actress. And I worked to, I said this in the very beginning, I'm so excited to play a narcissist because just because someone is a narcissist doesn't mean that they're a monster. And, but my dialogue with Irene and building this character was, working against those kind of projections. I think because I played a lot of dark women and a lot of villains, and they're really fun, but you are playing with like the repressed self and the shadow self and the layers and the blind spots of someone who's varying degrees of narcissism. But that was something that I wanted to bring to it. Because, in the beginning, Scott, I think I'm like, I don't want her to be this like fetishized, arch woman. And God, so many people want that from the star. They really want it. And they want it in real life too. They want to be tortured by her. They want to be like yelled at by her, and they want you to act out like that. And it is, I speak from experience. So it's remarkable.
That's really interesting.
We tried to, Thomas and I obviously have been working on this a long time, and we really wanted to make, because I feel like every character in this play is based on essentially somebody that we know, and we wanted it to feel incredibly affectionate because we're affectionate about the people that we know, and our world, we are. I mean, we're all all aspects of our world, your world included, Marks and Vincentelli, are filled with characters, right? It's stars. Like, stars, or people who think they're something that they're not, and who are living in worlds that they have created, for themselves. And I think that's what we wanted to do, but we still love them. That's the thing. Like we still love them and we're friends with them, Yes. I sometimes call it showbiz memory, right? Like when somebody does something that you don't approve of or that pisses you off, you can find yourself next year working with them again, right? It's showbiz brings out so many things, I think on both sides of the proscenium.
I find it fascinating, Parker, to hear you talk about sort of the the protectiveness you feel for the character that you're developing, that you're creating, because we all have to, as you say, also, we have to acknowledge the archetype, that we all expect this character to be that. And you're almost, that's an uphill climb for an actor. You have to create in that environment, and knowing what the expectation of an audience that has more power over, in its own way, over how a play is received than any one actor does.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting challenge.
Yeah, to feel that judgment for being a, quote, strong woman. Yeah.
But previews helps you sort of understand that a little bit. We're lucky that we have a preview process here that sort of allows the actors to sort of, and me to sort of figure out what that is and make the proper adjustments so that everybody feels comfy, so that Parker feels comfy playing that woman. I think that's the interesting thing about previews, is that you come up with it and then you play it in front of an audience to over and over again, and you sort of fine tune it, and you sort of understand, when the audience is laughing, when they're gasping, when they're crying, and you figure out like how to mold the whole thing that way. And Parker's obviously a wonderful partner in that way. And I think the character really did change over previews. She emerged in a different way over previews, and it was sort of beautiful.
Well, 3 weeks of
watch.
rehearsal, it was crazy for this big beast of a play. So by the time we hit tech and then previews, it was really like live rehearsals in front of an audience. So it was like jumping into a jacuzzi whirlpool.
It's funny. I was talking to a friend in London who's in the middle of a play right now, and I remembered that, like, when I work in London, that they only do 3 previews. So it's like a very, very different thing. Like, you do 3 previews and you're open, right? And they have a little bit more rehearsal. And I sort of think that, because I used to think, they have a little bit more rehearsal and less previews. But I think that our system is sort of interesting in that you do rehearse it in front of the audience. Like, you sort of come to understand what it is in front of the audience, because the audience is a character, right? In any play, like you're adding. I always tell every cast, you're adding another character when the audience comes in. They're not our friends or foes. They're another character, and they integrate into it, in a way, whether they like it, they don't like it, they embrace it, they reject it, whatever it is, that they are a part of it, and we care about them. Because that's why we do it.
Don't you think New York has a certain preview audience? I was kind of hearing
varies. That. It varies. Yes, there are people that like to go early. There are the theater, whatevers that want to come and check it out early. They want to see a train wreck. They want to see X, Y, or Z.
You feel it.
And then they come back sometimes and they watch it again. That's the sort of interesting thing about the New York theater, is that it does have that. And it is. Well, it's a sort of an interesting blood sport, because the stakes are different than a blood sport, but you do see, I've over the years, even post COVID, I would be like, but you still see some of those same people at the early previews that I saw back in 1997. They're still there. They have a cane, but they're still there. It's interesting that sort of attachment to the theater, that sort of emotional attachment to the theater.
It's so nice to go out, between the shows on Saturday, I go out and then I come back through the main entrance, and to run into some people who are walking out between who took a break over the past weekend. And this couple was they've been we've been seeing shows for 30 years, and we come to the theater. We came in from New Haven to see this, and we loved it. It's just. It's so, I haven't been in New York in a long time, 6 years, and I'm settling back into it and through doing a play, and it's brought me back to that community feel, what great writing can do, and people who love to support it. It's really, really lovely.
What's the difference, Parker, between the kinds of visceral reactions you get from people after they've seen you in a play, or you've given a performance in a play, than when you're in a movie? Is it a more distanced kind of communication that happens? Do you feel as much? Can you feel as much a response from people to a film performance over time, or is there a different level of satisfaction, a different kind of satisfaction?
I leave out the side door so I don't have to kind of get that projection as I leave, because the Signature has that cafe lobby.
Yes, exactly.
And so I leave so I don't have that kind of like I don't
onslaught.
know. It feels like a good boundary because it's I just played a character. And acting is what I do. I'm not that character. I'm not Irene.
You're not Irene.
There is like an expectation of like, be Irene or dance for grandma or whatever it is. Like, can you, say air raid into my phone right now? Like, just be that person. So, I don't know. It's
you protect yourself.
Yeah, I protect myself. I usually change the subject. I'm just like, yeah, it's great. What are you doing? Where are you going? Yeah, it's usually kind of an awkward.
It's not helpful to you.
It's not helpful to me. And then people say things like, that just don't make sense to me. So I'm really protecting myself.
Of course.
By being evasive.
Of course. Yeah,
well, I do have a question about the relationship with the audience, because one of the things, like the show starts with the ensemble, the cast is on stage and you guys are doing your warm-ups and stretching on stage. And that's the kind of stuff that usually, so question number one, do you do a pre-warm-up stretch before the stage one? Or do you actually do it on stage? But also, why that decision? Because when I saw the show, there were two women next to me who were keeping a conversation at regular conversation level the entire time you guys were stretching. Oh. And I kind of gave them, the death stare. And one of them turned to me and she was like, they're just warming up. And I wanted to say, but I mean, couldn't get into a conversation, but I wanted to say there's clearly an intentionality of them doing it on stage. There's clearly, it's not gratuitous that they're right there on stage. Something is happening. Perhaps the director is trying to do something for a show about theater. What do you think? I mean, clearly we're not going to get into that, but what is the point of that whole warm-up stretch thing? Because then you go out and change into your costumes.
So back to my friend Tanya, Scott. Tanya loved the warm-up so much. She was cracking up. And it's like there's something that, whether you like it or not. I mean, for me, I feel like I'm in a snow bubble, a snow globe, and I'm just like, out there. I told Scott this last night, like the snow starts and I'm just like creating a fog and a boundary between me and the audience. I've gotten better at that because I kind of like, I want that boundary because someone actually called my name during previews and I'm like, oh God. Okay. Anyway, there's something to that. There's something just classic about seeing actors warm up on stage. There's something kind of funny about it, but also, and it does include people. And it included the woman who said, like, they're just doing a warm up, like I'm warming up too. You know what I mean? So it's in a way giving the audience, I think Scott was talking about this before, kind of license to be along with us on stage a little more. Like the boundary is going, like our boundary here is kind of loose. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Scott? I just answered for you, but
oh no,
what do you have to say about it?
You're right on. No, you're spot on. You know the intention. Yeah, I wanted to include the audience in a different way. It's such an intimate space, so it's not like they're doing it on a Broadway stage. They're doing it right there, and I think that there's something sort of beautiful about the ritual of warming up. Of a group of people coming together and having to let everything go. Because you do, as I learned last night, you sort of have to let everything go. Like I thought of, when I walked out, because I did the warm up last night like everybody, and I was thinking like, what is this going to feel like? And I also enjoyed it. Like, I felt that there was something about it. It relaxed me, number one. Mm-hmm. And number two, there was just something about being able to see the crowd that you're playing for in a way that you normally wouldn't. And there's something sort of, I always thought something sort of beautiful about bringing everybody along on the ride. And I think it's, also I wanted to do it as a sort of, not a gift, but like a sort of little present to the audience. Like, look at this, look at look how crazy and funny and weird this is, the sort of work that we do.
But I was, I was like, Scott, no one wants to see a bunch of actors walking around hugging each other and laughing. I promise you. And we do see some crossed arms, and you're just like, oh, for Fraggle Rock, like, whatever. Like, why'd you leave your apartment? You get a little like, come on.
Yeah, there's always going to be people that roll their eyes at something, sort of different. But
I much prefer a before warm up to a talked back. I like the fact that you front loaded you as human beings that we could relate to in the process. We're all pretty sophisticated theater goers in New York and other cities. Right. We know that you're becoming someone else, so it's nice. It's refreshing to see you all interact as human beings before the show. We get a sense of who you are in some funny way, and then we also understand the role of the actor a little better when you transform. And by the same token, I don't want you at the end of the show to tell me what you just did. That's the time for me when the audience, and I think it's smart you slip away and don't engage necessarily in a long conversation with people. Not that you wouldn't participate in a talkback if you were asked to. I'm not judging. I'm just not judging that experience other than I prefer what you did, and I think it sets a nice example for what a theater can do that's clever and warm and engrossing.
Yeah, because if you don't slip away, you could be there all night. Because now the culture is people waiting, and I can't tell you how many times I've had to say, "Oh, Parker's gone already," and they're like, "Oh," people wait and wait, but it's a whole other thing. Like, do you really want that after a show? And by the way, I have to do a talkback. Yeah. I'm doing a talkback tomorrow night, and I won't invite you, but I have to do. Well, we have to do them.
And
but
it's something that it gets in the way. I feel it gets in the way of the work. It's kind of like the genie's out of the bottle, and for what and for why?
Right.
So I remember going to Sundance over a decade ago, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he did a show on stage. And he brought people in the audience up there, and I said I would do something, and I did, and I got up there, and I felt so awkward, because I wasn't being a character, and I didn't really know what world I was in, but I was like, wow, this is changing. You asked earlier, Peter, about what has changed from then to now. I'd say the boundary between the audience and the stage is very, has been blurred. Like, it's just kind of, it's got more water in there. And
interesting.
And we even noticed that with like snacks that are served at the shows. Like, I remember the first, box of Twizzlers I saw someone eating during, a Broadway show. So it's different, it's different and it's changing. So I think the warm up is a nod to that. And I will, back to your question, Elizabeth. Yes, I do. I warm up before the warm up.
Oh no!
And I'll say I warmed up before the warm up a little bit.
Great,
too.
And you'll warm up.
Yeah, and I heard Scott, but I also heard Scott that you did hang around in the lobby after your performance last night to try to, gather response.
I did. I was the last one to leave.
Were you really?
No. I walked out with Hari and her friends. And Thomas. Thomas was there, and he waited for me.
We'll have to rush. We're going to have to rush this one onto the onto the internet, because if you want to see Scott Elliott alongside Parker Posey, you'll have a few more opportunities.
We're gonna...
But we just wanted to thank you both for this fabulous conversation. It is a pleasure to see you once again, Parker and Scott.
Thank you.
And just to remind people that the Seagull Woodstock NY is playing at the new group at the Signature Pershing Theater Center until April 9th.
Thank you.
Thanks
both for having us.
Oh my God, that was so great. You know what? I think the best, Nirvana is hearing backstage stories for a show about the theater world. It doesn't get any nerdier and theatery as this. I mean, I like all kinds of play, but I think as many theater goers, I have a particular love for backstage stories or stories that take place among theater people. And this one, I think, is a new favorite for me.
Yeah, and also, Elizabeth, you dreamed up this episode, inviting Scott and Parker on, and I think that that if we do formulate a new series, which would be a good one of directors talking to actors on our podcast, I think it's an interesting dynamic always.
Yeah, I think I think clearly we should do more of those, because there's really an interesting discussion between those two specific collaborators. No, I find it really very exciting. I mean, we're also in the middle right now of the Broadway season, and we have a lot of thoughts, but I think we should save them for another episode, because we don't want to drag this on too long. But there's plenty to talk about. Oh my goodness!
Oh yeah.
So I think we're done for now. Oh Jesus, that was mentally exhausting, because I feel like Parker is so fast. I've got to keep up. I've got to keep up.
Yeah, it's good. At my age anyway, it's always nap time. So maybe I'll go lay down after this. Anyway, thank you for listening. Please, if you would, click on marksvincentelli.substack.com. and subscribe if you don't already. It makes us happy.
Please.
And we'll make you happy.
We'll go the distance. And follow us on Twitter, where we have updates and we link to our stuff and we announce upcoming podcasts with no spoilers. And on Twitter, my handle is @evincentelli and Peter is @PeterMarksDrama. And that's it for now. That was another good one in the can, if I may say so myself.
Indeed. I agree. And thanks always to our producer, Erica Huang.
Absolutely.